Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are featuring a somewhat older action figure. This is the X-Men villain Skullbuster, and it's a part of Hasbro's Marvel Legends series. Okay, so the reason why I'm looking at this figure now is because I was digging around some of my old Marvel Legends figures, and I came across some of the Reavers. The Reavers are infamous X-Men villains, and as I was like digging around and handling these action figures, I kind of remembered that sometime later this year, Hasbro is producing an entire X-Men wave of Marvel Legend figures, and the build-a-figure for that is the Reaver character Bonebreaker. So then I was thinking to myself, okay, if we're getting Bonebreaker later in the year, maybe I should start trying to assemble, a full team of Reavers. And so far, I mean, we've gotten Skullbuster, we've gotten Lady Deathstrike, but we're still absent some other characters like Pretty Boy and Donald Pierce. Now, the deal with Skullbuster here is you can actually get at least 2 to 3 characters from the Reavers out of this one figure. So the base figure here that you're getting is Skullbuster, but you could do a head swap here, and then you get another Reaver character. I believe it's either Reese or Macon. So you can either make Reese or Macon out of this guy, just by swapping the heads. So, that kind of got the gears spinning, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, I need more of this guy. I need more Skullbusters just so I can, round out the rest of the Reavers. And real quick, let me grab an image of the Reavers so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so most of the older X-Men fans will remember this. This is a double-page spread from X-Men issue, I believe it's 248. It's Jim Lee's first X-Men issue. And the comic starts off with the Reavers, who are pictured back here, and they take out a test dummy of Wolverine. So later this year, Hasbro is giving us this character right here, Bonebreaker. He's half tank, half cyborg, and he's going to be the Build-A-Figure. The figure we're looking at today, Skullbuster right here, this is him in the comic book right there. Pretty Boy, we still haven't gotten a figure of. Same with Donald Pierce. There's no figure of him yet. We got Lady Deathstrike maybe a year or two ago. And then here are the other Reavers. This trio, we have Reese, we have Wade Cole, and then we have Macon. So with the Skullbuster figure here, the idea is you could take the base Skullbuster figure and head swap with the extra head. And then you go essentially produce Reese right here. And if you wanted to kind of stretch your imagination, you could get a third figure, and you could create Macon right here. And if it bothered you too much that the heads looked identical, you could just easily just repaint the hair color, so it's maybe brunette instead of a dirty blonde. So yeah, we're gonna be taking a look at Skullbuster today. And this is an older figure. This came out back in 2018. I already have this guy, but like I said, if I want the full team of Reavers, I can have to buy a couple more of these just so I could, head swap and make the other 3 Reaver troopers. If you've been reading the X-Men comics the last maybe 2 years, the Reavers have actually grown exponentially. It's no longer limited to this this half dozen or so characters. It's almost like an entire army of this cyborg people. And I think the reason that might be is just because I think maybe the writers just want to have cannon fodder. So instead of just killing off main Reaver characters, there's a bunch of generic troopers that, like Wolverine or Dakin could just plow through, and you're not going to lose any main characters. Alright, so let's get this box open. I don't want to destroy this box because I might want to save it later for a custom. The tape's off. Okay. I know this seems kind of tedious and unnecessary, but you know, every now and then I tell myself I need a Marvel Legends box, and then I find out that I just threw them all away. So I like to keep a couple on hand handy in case I want to make like a custom box or something. And I don't think I opened this box up correctly. Oh well. Okay, so we have Skullbuster. Now, first impressions of this action figure while it's still in the tray. This figure is actually making reuse of a figure that came before it. So, in the Marvel Legends, I believe it was the X-Force line, they gave us the character Deathlock. So this figure is essentially the Deathlock body with a couple of changes. So there's actually two different Deathlock figures out. There's the X-Force branded one, which is the gray and black uniform. And then there's the much more iconic Deathlock, which is the red, silver, and yellow. So this figure right here, if you remove the bullet, and if you remove the vest, you can actually see the Deathlock body underneath. So this is essentially Deathlock. There's even the plug there for his cybernetics. The only thing is that they just reused the body. It's black. And Deathlock had two cyborg arms. For the Reavers here, they just gave him the one human arm. But yeah, this is essentially just a complete reuse of another figure. And they gave you a new head too. Which, you know, if you look carefully enough, this might have been a head that you reused for something else. But just painted black with a skull on it. So the other accessories, this comes with the Build-A-Figure piece, which is for Caliban. And then there's the pistol. You can take that out. And then the extra Reaver head. And this head does not want to come out of the tray. There we go. So here's the extra Reaver head. I believe this is supposed to be Reese. So as you can see here, there's the mic on the headset. It's really flexible. And then we have Reese. And this is a very soft rubbery plastic dome. And you can actually remove this. So you can take off the dome right here. Let's get this in focus. It doesn't want to focus. All right, just wait. Yeah, so there's the dome. And then here's Reese's head. There's his face. So this is actually just one solid piece of plastic. The head and the crazy like Lobot like head wrap, this all one piece. And then this dome just kind of closes over. But like I said earlier, if you want to make this a different character, if you want to make this Macon, you know, just take some brown paint and recolor the hair brown. And then you'll get another character. So here's Skullbuster. As I've mentioned, it's actually the old Deathlock figure, but this, you know, swapped out a human arm for a cyborg one, and it's just repainted. It has the new vest, the bullet strap. He has a holster here, and then the holster, you can store his pistol. There's his pistol. Let's wait, gets into focus. And it's nice. I like it when you can store weapons on the body of the character. And then there's Skullbuster. Articulation-wise, his head rotates. Arms rotate, and they go outward. There's a bicep cut. Double jointed elbows. Wrist articulation. Look up close, there's an ab crunch right there. So you bend forward, bend back, waist swivel, legs kick up, thigh cut right at the cybernetics. double pinned knees, boot cut, and ankle articulation. Now, I do have issues with this character. For one, it bothers me that this is essentially the Deathlock figure, and it doesn't look like what Skullbuster looked like initially in the comic books. So initially, I want to say that he had a black leather jacket on, but the reason why they gave him the green jacket here is because, you know, they want to encourage that you buy multiples of these figures. So, you know, you take the head off, and then you can easily make Reese. So once you put the head on, this looks closer to Reese than this does look like Skullbuster, at least in my opinion. And then, you know, if you want to complete the trio of the troopers, you know, you buy another one, and then you paint the hair brown, and then you call that Macon. Now the difficulty is that one of the Reavers, Wade Cole. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky. Let me talk about this real quick. All right, so this trio of Reaver characters right here, they were originally introduced as members of the Hellfire Club, and they were kind of like the Hellfire Club troopers. If you remember the comic, it was way back when. It was written by Chris Claremont, illustrated by John Byrne. It's the story where Dark Phoenix is kind of like initiated into the Hellfire Club. So the X-Men have to infiltrate the Hellfire Club mansion and get Jean Grey back. And while they're at it, you know, Wolverine, he slaughters 3 of the Hellfire Club troopers, which are Reese, Cole, and Macon. And at some point in time, much later, in X-Men issue number 205, I believe, written by Chris Claremont and illustrated by Barry Windsor Smith, it's kind of like a Christmas time story, and Wolverine's in the city, and then he runs into one of the kids from Power Pack, and Wolverine's being hunted down by the Reavers and Spiral. So this is the first time I believe they introduced the Reaver troopers, but they're not Reavers yet. They're actually, I think they were made by the Body Shop, and they're like agents of like Mojo, because they work for Spiral. And so here's Reese, Macon, and Cole. But in this issue, Cole's portrayed as a white guy, and it's not until much later that, you know, in X-Men 248, you know, they kind of portray Cole as a black guy. So I'm not sure if, you know, he was always intended to be a black guy, but it was a mistake by the colorist, or if, you know, this was something they decided later on. Who knows? But, you know, modern X-Men canon has Cole as Wade Cole as a black guy. You know, if you've seen the old X-Men cartoon, he's in that also. So for me, the challenge is right now, it's like, if I want to complete the trio of Reaver troopers of Macon, Reese, and Cole, you know, I got to find a way to like take this white arm and this, you know, this Caucasian face, and, you know, eventually turn it into, like, you know, as Cole appears in the comic book. But that's going to be a video for another time, and that's a custom figure I'm currently working on. So right now my goal is, you know, I kind of want to assemble as many of the Reavers as possible, so that by the time the Build-A-Figure Bonebreaker comes out, you know, I'll have at least, you know, 80 to like 90% of the team, you know, with the exception of Donald Pierce and Pretty Boy. So yeah, right now I'm working on a Wade Cole, a custom Reaver figure, and I'll address that in a future video. But for now, you know, this video is more so about Skullbuster. God, I lose track of all their names. Skullbuster. Yeah, because I always get him and Bonebreaker confused. So yeah, this is more about Skullbuster. You know, but, you know, as an option, like I talked about, they give you the extra head just so you can make the extra Reaver troopers. But this is supposed to be the stock figure right here, you know. And it's a decent figure. If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it an 8. I would rate it higher, but the thing is, it's not entirely an original new figure. There's a lot of reuse. Like, I know that, like, a lot of Marvel Legends figures, you know, they reuse a lot of parts to begin with. But a part of me felt like this was kind of lazy, but I do understand why they did what they did. It seems like there's a lot of compromises here, so you could get multiple characters out of just the one. Either way, it's a great figure, and if you're looking to build Bonebreaker, you know, later this year, you're gonna need this figure just so you can build up the entire Reaver team. So yeah, it's a great figure overall, you know, and you know, it doesn't hurt to have more X-Men villains, especially in, like, an entire villain team. So once Bonebreaker comes out, essentially you'll have Bonebreaker, you'll have Lady Deathstrike, Skullbuster, and if you have another Skullbuster, at least Reese. If you have another Skullbuster, you can at least make Macon. But Cole's a different story, so we'll talk about that in a future video. Alright, so let's wrap this up. I'm kind of like, I feel like this video is a little bit long-winded, and I feel like I'm just kind of like babbling. So once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And be on the lookout because I actually have 2 custom videos that are coming out that have to deal with the Reavers. Alright, so I'll talk to you later.